Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're digging into a pretty heavy stack of material military after-action reports, the Downing Assessment.
Right, and legal filings that span 3 whole decades.
And our mission here is to really get to the heart of one specific moment, the moment the entire U.S. military mindset pivoted.
From anti-terrorism to what we now call force protection.
It's a distinction that sounds, a little academic.
But it was bought with blood.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, it all starts with a bureaucratic argument over a parking lot.
Before we get there, let's set the scene. Imagine you're in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia. It's late June, 1996.
Hot, quiet desert night.
For the thousands of U.S. personnel there with Operation Southern Watch, it feels relatively safe.
But it isn't. Not really. 20 miles away in Bahrain, people are about to hear an explosion so massive, seismographs pick it up.
They thought it was nuclear.
That was the initial thought. It wasn't. But the devastation, it was absolute. We're talking about the Khobar Towers bombing. A sewage tanker truck just sheared the entire face off an 8-story dormitory.
And to understand how that happened, you have to look at this idea that they were in a peaceful kingdom.
Yeah, that's what the Department of Defense called it.
Yeah.
But that label was already cracking.
You had the bombing in Riyadh just months before, in November 95.
At the OPM Sang office, right. The training mission for the Saudi National Guard. 5 Americans were killed in that one.
So that should have been a wake-up call.
It was, to an extent. The commanders at Khobar, they actually raised the threat level to Threat Con Delta.
Which is the highest level, right?
The absolute highest. So they added sentries, they put up concrete barriers, the whole deal. But there was this one, this fatal geographic flaw.
The dead zone.
Exactly. The northern perimeter fence was only 72 feet away from Building 131, where the airmen were sleeping.
And the U.S. commanders, they knew this was a problem.
They practically begged the Saudis. They said, please, let us push the fence back into this public parking lot. We need a buffer.
But the request was denied.
Repeatedly. The Saudis were worried about local sensitivities, jurisdiction. It was a parking lot used by a nearby mosque.
So that 72-foot gap.
That's exactly where the attackers parked the truck.
And when that truck pulled up, it wasn't just a standard car bomb. The forensics on this are terrifying.
No, it was a sewage tanker, but it had been modified into a shaped charge.
Okay, so let's unpack that. A shaped charge focuses the energy.
Think of it like a lens, but for an explosion. Instead of the blast just going out in all directions, this design focused 5,000 pounds of plastic explosives directly at the building.
To pulverize the concrete.
Exactly. It creates an airburst effect.
Which makes the actions of the sentries on the roof just even more heroic.
Staff Sergeant Alfredo Guerrero and his team, they see the truck, they see the driver fleeing. They had, maybe 3 or 4 minutes tops.
And they didn't run away.
They ran into the building, banging on doors, shouting, trying to wake people up.
And that decision saved dozens of lives.
It absolutely did. The blast still killed 19 airmen and injured around 500. But in the aftermath, you read these accounts of the buddy system just kicking in.
Airmen using doors as stretchers.
Yeah. Carrying the wounded out of the wreckage. Just incredible.
And here's the detail that leads to the big institutional change. Most of those injuries weren't from the blast wave.
It was the glass. Flying glass. Which brings us to the Downing report.
The after-action assessment. And it was scathing.
It was. It argued the military was stuck in that anti-terrorism mindset, which is all about trying to stop the bad guy.
The shift they called for was to force protection. So what does that really mean?
It means you assume the bad guy will get through. You assume the attack will happen. So the question becomes, how do we survive it?
It made every single airman a sensor.
And it physically changed how bases are built. You go to a U.S. base today, you see these huge mandatory standoff distances. No more urban high-rises.
And the windows.
Mylar film. It's standard now. At Khobar, the glass shattered and became shrapnel. Mylar holds it all together, even if it breaks.
Such a simple fix, born from tragedy. Okay, let's fast forward to right now, February 2026, because there's finally movement on the justice front.
We know it was Hezbollah, al-Hijaz, Saudi Hezbollah, with help from the Iranian IRGC.
And for 30 years, the victims' families have been fighting for some kind of accountability.
And they're finally seeing it through the US VSST Fund.
The United States Victims of State-Sponsored Terrorism Fund.
Right. As of January, they started a historic distribution of nearly $2.8 billion.
And the key thing for you to know here is that this isn't taxpayer money.
Not at all. It comes from fines paid by companies that violated U.S. sanctions.
So the corporations that did business with state sponsors of terror are the ones funding the compensation for the victims.
It's taken 3 decades, but it's a financial closing of the loop.
Khobar Towers really was the end of an era then, the end of the sanctuary for overseas forces.
It proved that the front line is everywhere, and that you can't rely on host nation politeness for your security.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to chew on. This attack was successful, in large part because of a bureaucratic fight over a parking lot.
Just a parking lot.
So in an era of complex global alliances, are we still making that same mistake today? Are we mistaking diplomatic politeness for actual security?
It's a question we still have to ask every day.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. Stay safe out there.